Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 5 of Predict the Pros. We've got just a short little show here for you tonight, mostly for me to gloat a little bit and for us to talk about MSI a bit. With me is Kevin Kamir.
Hey guys, how you doing? I also go by Streetball. That's my coaching name. You can find me at leaguecoaching.gg. Thanks for having me as always.
As always. And yeah, especially tonight, I get to do a little bit of gloating. So, I'm glad you didn't find some reason, didn't
I'm
show up.
unexpectedly sick
Unexpected.
in
I have the black
one of my
lung.
worst weeks of predictions, and one of your best. Yeah,
Well,
unexpected sickness.
I do not. Let's be real. We can just jump right into it. Like this was not an expected. I have to say when you were talking last week about the Splice and Vitality game, like you basically convinced me that I was going to be horribly wrong. But I was like, I feel like these two teams are close enough. You know what? Let's just be, contrarian and go for something a little different. And turns out it worked out.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
it was a crazy set.
Yeah, back and forth games. Some games were stomps and some games were super close. But yeah, I definitely thought that it was one of those things where I didn't have full faith in Vitality, but Splice had just wronged me so many times before. I'm like, Splice is a pretty good team. They can take this game, and then end up losing and costing me a prediction. I'm like, okay, you know what? Vitality has proven me wrong a bunch of times before where I said they wouldn't perform well, and they have. When they go with Vitality, I'll do 3-2 because I'm not entirely confident. And then, yeah, unfortunately for me, Splice takes it 3-2. They prove that they're probably the better best of 5 team because Vitality is pretty much like either we're gonna really stomp hard or we're just gonna straight int. One of those two things is going to happen. And unfortunately for Vitality, yeah, in the best of 5, it went well twice and 3 times not so much. But yeah, some other members played okay, but I think Splice overall really impressed me. Biggest person that impressed me was, of course, Niski. Niski, I think, definitely is the MVP of that series. He stepped it up. He was always the one person on Splice where everyone's like, yeah, man, Odoamne and Xerxes, like, awesome top jungle duo. The bot lane's pretty decent. Like, everybody's pretty good. Like, Kabe can carry late game. Like, Kasing can pop off as well. Like, it's only Niski that's like, he can hold his own, but can he really carry? And this series, he's straight carried. Specifically in Game 2, Xerxes did a good job of kind of getting Niski started, and then Niski took the reins from there and just took over, which is what's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be like mid lane helps the jungle a bit, jungle helps the mid lane a bit, and then mid lane takes over and carries from there. And that's exactly what they did, so props to Splice.
I tried to be a little bit more proactive in taking notes for these series, and it really only worked out for Splice and Vitality. But yeah, my game 2 notes, the top is oops, Cassiopeia hit through.
Yeah. I definitely tried to shorten up my notes this time because I used to have giant pages, and then I would look at the page and I would just go blank and have to just like riff off of random.
Yeah.
So I've kept my notes very short. My notes for game 2 are just Xerxes carry to Niski carry. That's the end of my notes. It's like Xerxes did well early. He got Niski going. Niski straight carried the game. I do have all my fancy notes though on the other side there, but I'm not even going to bother looking at that right now. It's the end of the season. Let's just keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
I do want to give a shout out though to Jack Troll because I don't even know if I've been hard on him on like I don't know if I've talked about it here, but I've always been hard on him. I've always found that some games he'll just die a bunch of times. Which one was it? Game 3. All of Vitality played really well, but Jack Troll was just popping off on Thresh, like hook after hook after hook after hook, and that's exactly what you need to do on that champion because it's basically like land your hooks and carry the game or don't and be useless. So shouts out to Jack Troll there for actually doing really well in Game 3. Again, to keep on the topic of the bot lane of Vitality, Mini Trupax actually played really well during that series. Again, I had kind of been a little bit down on him because I felt like he's really good sometimes, but then sometimes it's just nothing. So I don't feel like there's that consistency, which is what I really care about in the AD carry role. But I felt he played really well during 4 games of this series and a decent portion of 5. But in 5, his late game, not even late game, but like mid to late game macro was not great. Splice actually took a Baron during one of his back timings and then took a free turret top later that game with another one of his back timings. So like his kind of decisions on back timing, which is something I'm really big on as a coach because it's
Yeah.
pretty easy to take stuff when the guy's back at base. So if you can time that, or for example, you can put the opponent in a situation where they can't have an opportune back timing, and then
Yep.
they're forced to back, and when you do, that's when you can punish them. So really good job by Splice to actually punish those back timings, but I feel like it's Game 5 in. I mean, it's a third place series, but still, it's Game 5, end of the playoffs. It's your last game of the split. Like you can't make those mistakes, and it's not a mistake like, oh no, you got caught out. It's like you made one of those mistakes that's not blatant. It's not like while you're making it, you're not thinking I'm making a mistake right now. You're just by the time it's over, you're
Yep.
like, oh no, I just gave
Very
them
much
free
a
bear.
retrospect. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something that's blatant, like, oh no, I got caught out and I died. Now we're gonna lose the game. It's one of those things where you look back and you're like, small mistake, but giant impact. As I was talking about, like butterfly effect. One small thing, back timing, can lead to the entire game going. So Mini Troupax played really well the entire series. Game 5, unfortunately, kind of slipped up. But I do want to give props to the bot lane of Vitality because I feel like they did a really good job of keeping their team in this, because I felt like there was a lot of times where Gilius and Jizuke, who I've given a lot of props to, we're just inting. We're just legitimately just like, Gilius is like, I want to kill this ward. I don't care if 4 people are collapsing on me and my team's back at base or across the map. I'm going to kill this ward. And it's just like, no, dude, just let the ward go. And same thing with Jizuke. I felt like he was trying too hard to carry in some games, and it was one of those things where it's the flip of the coin. He either does really well in hard carries and looks like a god, or he's just inting and was like, why are you throwing this game? Why are you doing this? So it's really unfortunate to see what I consider really good players, Gilius and Jizuke, perform poorly in some situations, but I think that's exactly the double-edged sword of both of those players. Is it's kind of like the Dardoch situation. Super high individual skill, but sometimes they're going to make silly mistakes. But if they're on, they're going to hard carry the game for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
So so it's funny. We talked a little bit after the show about how we thought that all 4 series were going to be pretty close. That we felt like there was a lot of balance. No. We had one balanced series.
I was gonna say there was one series I thought that wasn't gonna be close, but I gave G2 the game because last week I was like, Fnatic's gonna 3-0, no problem. And it was like 3-1, and I was like, fine, I'll give G2 one game, fine, I'll be like, and then it's the 3-0, and I'm like, I knew they were gonna 3-0. Yeah, I should have. So one of those things, but yeah, it's all good. I think that I guess just final point of the Splice Vitality thing. I think Vitality has a lot of potential. I think more potential overall than a team like Splice, but I think Splice is just way better at using what they have, especially in that series. But I'm really looking forward to what Vitality is going to do potentially next split, because I'm assuming they're going to keep their roster the same, and I think that roster has a lot of potential actually. So looking forward to that. But kudos to Splice. Anyways, G2 Fnatic there. But yeah, that was exactly what we all thought it was going to be, and it was legitimately exactly what I thought it was going to be. Where it's like, okay, either Broxah and Caps are going to dominate early and the game is over, or they're not, and G2 is going to do reasonably well, and then Fnatic's just going to stomp the game once it gets to team phase. Like I always say, like Caps and Broxah will win you the early game, and if they don't, late game reckless. How are you going to win? You can't. The only way you can beat them is to just like crush the game from get go and just snowball and then end the game at like 22 minutes, because my notes say in all these games, I'm like, don't let it get past 30 minutes. I literally at the start of the game after Champs, I'm like, don't let it get past 30 minutes. Reckless will win the game. It's just going to happen. And they got to 30 minutes, even though G2 did well early in game 1, and then it ended up being bad. I think one point that I do want to make about G2, kind of talking down on G2, and because I've been talking up on Fnatic so much, saying like they're just such a great team, like nobody can beat them. It's not G2's fault, but it actually was G2's fault in game 1. It's kind of like we were actually talking a little bit briefly before the show about how it's so difficult to enact split push comps and things like that, and just simple things are a lot easier. And that's exactly what happened in game 1 there of G2 Fnatic, because G2 had a split push comp, and they're like, oh, let's just rush Baron. And then Fnatic's like, oh, 5v5 team fight, don't mind if I do. and then the game's over. And it's like G2 had the lead, and if they had actually properly enacted that split push, it would have been a little bit easier for them to try and pull out a win, albeit still a difficult path. But if you pick a comp like that, you got to play around it. So even though Fnatic did a great job, I feel like G2 kind of handed them game 1. And then it wasn't until 2 and 3 where it was like, oh yeah, no, Fnatic's just killing everybody. But shouts out to Jankos, because I felt so bad for him that series. It was like straight elo hell for him. Like every game, he was just like trying so hard to just turn it around, everything he could, and it's just like, nope. every little bit he gets, Fnatic, like he takes one step forward and Fnatic takes two. And so I feel really bad for Jankos, but hey, he proved that he is one of, if not the best jungler in the league. But I mean, of course, we all know I think Brox is number one, but it proved that he was probably number two, and at least is in the conversation for number one as well. So so props to Jankos.
And to like, oh my goodness, Reckless. It was just it's like ballet or something. Super, just like so smooth, moving around like. No trouble at all. I mean, it just makes it look so natural and easy. Like, like the amount of work that goes into that perfect kind of positioning, insane.
What I'm really impressed by is his ability to not fall behind early as Tristana, because actually, I mean, obviously, I'm not even remotely close to the level of Reckless, but I've dropped Tristana down a bit on my champ pool because I'm having so much trouble early game now with the early nerfs. So before it's like, not the strongest early game, but we can survive that, no problem. Late game's phenomenal. All right, let's do that. Where he's just somehow able to kind of come out and not even be behind in CS somehow, and then once we get to late game, it's over. So I think. Like you said, absolutely, his team fighting and his rotations, his positioning, everything is great. But honestly, the biggest thing that impresses me is he's able to get there even when his team's actually not kind of performing that well early, which is one of those things that's really nice to have as that late game insurance of like, hey, no matter how we're doing in this game, eventually, once we get past this point, Reckless is going to be the strongest person in the game. And if we play around him, we always have a chance to win. We always have that fallback strategy. And then when you have such a strong early game too, with the way Caps dominates mid, and then Broxa kind of just spreads his presence across the map, and I think it's one of those things where it's really difficult to beat Fnatic. You're going to need a team that's just straight up like a world-class team in order to beat them, and hopefully we'll potentially see some of those games at MSI.
Yeah, I think we will. I'll hold off onto that until we actually get talking.
Yeah, we'll save that for later.
All right, so next, the one game that we both missed, and the one game that really caused no one on the site to get a perfect week. Echo Fox and Clutch. Echo Fox just turned it on. They were looking like, first half of the split, and Clutch. I feel like they didn't drop as far as they had been playing during the regular season, but they definitely didn't feel like they were playing at the level when they took 100 Thieves to 5. So
yes, I definitely think that Clutch did not perform as well as they did in, let's say, the TSM series or even the 100 Thieves series. I think that Clutch would have looked better if Echo Fox didn't crush early so hard every single game.
Yeah.
In my notes, I put because this is why I predicted that Clutch was going to win, because it's the same thing as I believe it's the same thing I predicted with the Liquid series, except with one game extra, because I thought that Echo Fox would have an easier time beating Clutch in a snowball than they would beating Liquid in a snowball. But yeah, basically I was like, Echo Fox needs to snowball every game in order to win, and I think they'll probably snowball 2, but I don't know if they'll get 3. They snowballed every single game. I was like, Echo Fox needs to snowball to win. They did exactly that. Like game 1 and game 2, Dardoch was so far ahead early and Lyra was so far behind. It was just like, oh, well, if they don't make any mistakes, this game's pretty much over. Like it was insane. Fabivin had, of course, like always, insane ultimates in team fights and stuff like that, but he died. He died in the team fights too. And I mean, part of that is just like the teams as well. It's not all on Fabivin, of course.
He just he never had the gold or the damage to be able to like.
Because
make those happen.
The snowball's way too fast. And that's what I was saying. Like, Clutch is a great team at stabilizing, holding on, and eventually coming back later through like over-aggression from teams trying to close out games like too quickly. But it just never got to that point. It was like the wins were, first game was 29 minutes, second game was 21 minutes, third game 25 minutes. Like 29 minutes is actually slightly shorter than the average game time. So 21 minutes is like 10 minutes shorter than the average game time, basically. Like these games were such stomps, and it was one of those things where it's like the first game, it reminded me a lot of the first game of TSM Clutch, where Mike Young is just running rampant through Lyra's jungle and just like, oh, this is what this series is going to be like. Yep. Oh man, TSM's going to 3-0 straight up, no problem. But Echo Fox did what we thought TSM was going to do, basically, where it's like, oh, there's no way you can do that same start game 2, and game 2 again, Lyra super far behind, Dardoch insanely far ahead. And I wrote in my notes, I was like, Dardoch's Olaf is like the new like Haku host Thresh. Like, please ban that. Thankfully they did, and it didn't even matter. It didn't even end up mattering. But at least I'm glad they banned it. That's one of those things where you could of course after the series been like, why didn't you ban Olaf? You should have taken it. But they did. But yeah, I think everybody on Echo Fox played really well. They went back to but like you said, they looked a lot more like the early season Echo Fox, where it's like just chill out in bot lane. Adrian can roam, Alt Echo play safe, and then Phoenix, Huni, and Dardoch will carry the game. Like we got it. We're good to go. And I think that's exactly what happened to this series.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if it was just maybe a little bit of fatigue. I mean, I feel like it's definitely not all mental, I would say, because I mean, I think Echo Fox is just, especially right now, a better team than TSM. Especially when you stack up the lanes and look at the ability just to run away with the snowball. But after having played that 5-game series, I think, and then kind of going into that, and then, again, we're having to start with this, horrible loss first game and then really rough early games again, because they didn't have, so correct me if I'm wrong, but when they were playing against TSM with the other games, I don't think they ever got really that far behind in 2, 3, and 4, right? I feel like
two. The early game was horrible.
Oh yeah, that's right.
For them.
That was
but everything else, absolutely, yeah.
And so
two was
the
cleanse teleport.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
After like 6 minutes in the game, roughly, I'd have to go back and check my notes. But it was literally like I was like literally typing lol after my notes because I was like, this game's over, like this series is over. And then it was about like 6 minutes into the game or so. I was like, oh, there's the turnaround. There's like a double kill from Lyra or whoever it was, or I think it was Lyra. I think Lyra pulled that game around because he's just went man mode.
So I'd say maybe a little bit of that, plus combined with Echo Fox just playing better, and if it also felt like they got their killer instinct back a bit to be able to wrap that up.
Yeah, because Echo Fox is a very, like, if they're confident, they can usually crush. And they try and keep that confidence at all times, but you can tell it's not always there and stuff like that. Yeah. And I definitely think that Game 3 was actually not going that bad for CG until there was that bug and they did the chrono break, rewind thing. And then it went in Echo Fox's favor, and it's like, the game's over now.
And actually, that's good bringing that up, because I feel like that plays into my narrative a little bit of the fatigue, just because the casters were then talking about, like, wait, why did they not just play it the same? Like, because if I remember, Clutch then they jumped the gun a little bit. I think
that's the thing, is they tried to play it the same, but the way it was rewound to was a little bit before that. So then Lyra pulled the trigger too early, because I'm sure they were talking, like, thinking, okay, guys, when it happens, we're going to do this. I'm going to go in. You guys can back me up. You guys are almost there. Like, I'll go in first. I'll tank them for a second. It'll all be good. But it was a little bit too early, and Lyra was kind of like 1v3 for like a split second, and it's like, oh no, now it's over pretty much. Like that. I always talk about that 1 second where even if the fight's a 3v3, you can find split seconds where it's a 2v1, a 3v1, a 3v2, whatever it is, and split up the fight and do all your damage first. And now it's a 3v2 by the time the guy's gone, and that's a rough game. And then of course after that, because the game wasn't just purely over after that, but Dardoch took that lead and ran with it. Dardoch basically there was twice in a row. Dardoch went to mid lane and either got a flash or a kill, and then went up to top lane and got a flash or a kill, and then backed, and then went to mid lane and got a flash or a kill, top lane got a flash or a kill. I think it was vice versa, like it switched at these times. But it was like the same thing twice in a row, and it was just like he's like they can't stop him. He's just running through everywhere. Yeah. And they don't even care about bottom, so that's fine. Get mid-fed, get top-fed, they will carry. And Phoenix was back to his old form, because Phoenix is one of those really hit-or-miss players. Like, when he's performing well, he's, like, world-class. And you're like, why isn't this guy, like, on the top-tier teams? And then when he's performing poorly, you're like, oh, that's why. Okay,
yeah.
When he's playing well, it's like, oh my God. And that's exactly what I feel like Echo Fox kind of is in a nutshell. It's like, when they're on, they look like one of the best teams in the world. When they're off, they look like a bottom tier NALCS team. Yeah.
And I mean, I was thinking, like, this game like not just for points and for anything else, but like this game was so important for Echo Fox's mentality, especially for
Yeah.
going into next season. With like as you said, they play based on their emotions so much,
Mhm.
and if they had lost this, and after the split they had had, the ending they had had, and then dropped to fourth place, that would have been a hard
Yeah.
recovery. So at least they have a little bit boost, feel like they got back in the fighting form. Um, they're they're probably going to be. I would not be surprised if they win regular season summer. I feel like they're going to push with that, and it feels like Liquid may not do quite as well regular season, though I do feel like tournament style. And so nice little
They're
transition.
they're the new TSM
Liquid
basically.
has been looked amazing,
Yeah.
amazing through this whole tournament. Also, makes me feel so much better. I mean, if you're going to lose as Cloud9, then you might as well lose the eventual tournament winner, right?
Exactly, yeah,
So
and then
there
you
you
can say
go.
we're basically second place, pretty
And
much. Like,
yes, basically, I feel
same
like that's a
thing.
true statement.
Yeah.
But well, I mean, especially since like honestly, I felt like the Cloud9 games were almost
Super
closer
close.
than
That
the
was
100 Thieves.
it was
So
probably the closest 3-0 series of all time.
yeah, and so, but yeah, I mean, so like Liquid though, Double Lift was just he was in the zone. I
Pretty
feel
much
like,
perfect, yeah,
yeah,
virtually.
there was. It felt like watching a Korean team, a top tier Korean team, moving around the map, executing cleanly, immediately jumping on mistakes, and I feel like let's see. I kind of stopped taking notes with that one, but I feel like
Oh
there
yeah,
was one
yeah,
of the
yeah.
games that I saw a little bit of hesitancy, but I mean that could have just been more of a slightly more conservative move than an actual hesitation. But I mean, like, looked good.
Yeah. No, and exactly like you said, they look like a world-class team right now, which is really exciting to see. They're like one of the best teams like one of the best teams I've seen in NA in a long time, and it's like, oh, look at us go. Now
Yep.
that said, we're playing against other NA teams, so
True.
we'll
True.
see, and we'll
True.
talk about that in a bit. But just from looking at that, it's one of those things where even though they're beating teams and they're beating them pretty clean, like handily, it's not like, oh yeah, they're stomping, so they're so good. Like it's calculated, it's high percentage
Hmm.
play, like it's very clean. It's
Yes.
not just like we're better than you, so we're gonna win, which it kind of feels like what Echo Fox is.
Yeah.
Where Team Liquid, I have much more faith in their actual team. It really feels like when it's exactly what you want out of a team. When one person has a bad game, everybody else brings them up. When the other
Yep.
person has a bad game, the next person carries. Like they're
Hmm.
even if you shut one person down, the other person's going to do well, and that's what it feels like from Team Liquid. And yeah, like you said, Double Lift played phenomenally. He set a record with 35.3 KDA over the playoffs, which is
Oh.
the highest KDA by far. I think it's like 17 above or something. The next highest or something like that. I don't take me on that. Don't take me word for word on that. But 35.3 KDA over 3 playoff series is insane. Team Liquid got every single dragon that series. They
I
got
know, right?
11-0 in dragons.
Just
Ixsmithy was insane that series. He was
yep.
insane. Like he played so, and obviously game one with the Baron steal, and part of that
Hmm.
was because of impact and the singed
Yep.
because Afromu with the headbutt. Because that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is 100 Thieves should be able to get this no problem. And then Ixsmithy even botched the blasting go, and I'm like, oh, we got it, no problem. And he just cues over the wall and then steals it because Afromu tried to headbutt Pulverize, and that didn't work with the goo on the
Yep.
ground there. But yeah, so props to both of them there. But that was
Mhm.
incredible, and it was one of those things where the game was back and forth. I still felt like even though 100 Thieves was actually in more control, they were slightly ahead of Team Liquid that game before the Baron steal and stuff like that, and they got good picks. And this is part of what I think of when I'm thinking of good teams, and this is why I'm so high on Fnatic, is there's this kind of feeling that I have. I don't know whether it's based on actual like evidence or it's just like the feeling that I have, but when teams like that get behind, and I have this with Team Liquid right now, I have this with Fnatic, when they get behind, like I'm not worried. I don't
Yeah.
care. I'm just like, oh, the 100 Thieves is going to take Baron, like I don't
Hmm.
whatever. will either steal it, like Liquid will either steal it or they'll just stall it out and come back later. Like they'll figure out a way around it. They'll figure it out. I'm not worried. And like I said, I don't know whether that's based off of evidence or just randomly me feeling that way. But yeah, once Xmithie stole that Baron, I was like, oh, Liquid's gonna 3-0. Like it's over. That one steal, I was like, oh, this series is over. Like it's over. This
Really?
one's done.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I literally made a note. And I said this series is over. Not because I think 100 Thieves is going to tilt or anything like that. And I think they did a little bit. Not. I don't want to say tilt. They just they didn't play as well. You could see it wasn't as good. And then of course Liquid's getting a little more confident, a little more better as the games go on and stuff like that. But Xmithie played phenomenally. Pobelter played out of his mind.
Yeah.
Doublelift was insane. Ole stepped it
ult.
up. And Impact is one of those guys that is such a team player. Impact is. I want him on my team in top lane on any team. Like he is everything I want out of a top laner. Like I don't care if you win lane. I don't care. Be there for the team. Absorb that pressure. Allow our carry roles to carry. Like he is so good at not only absorbing the pressure, but then helping the team once he's already absorbed it. Like I'm so impressed by Impact, and that's why I'm so impressed by Team Liquid altogether. Is like every single player is stepping it up big.
They really are.
And that's what we saw in the playoffs, and that's why even against a good team like 100 Thieves, where you're like all of their players are playing pretty darn well, it's not enough against a team like Team Liquid.
It seemed like Team Liquid were playing like they had already won.
I think they kind of felt like we can't lose, like there's no, and that's kind of why I had that feeling with the whole like the first game. I was like, even though 100 Thieves is doing really, like not really well, but they're doing slightly better than Liquid right now, I still feel like Liquid's fine. And then when they stole the Baron, it's like, oh yeah, this is of course this would happen. This just makes sense at this point. And they had really good draft as well. Like coaching staff did their part as well. I thought the draft was great.
Yeah, I mean there was no. I mean, this sounds bad, but I feel like this is actually a compliment. But there were no excuses for 100 Thieves. But they just got, Liquid was just better. But I mean, 100 Thieves.
I do think they got outdrafted a tiny bit. Nothing major, nothing to the point where it's like, oh, that was an unwinnable game because of draft. But it was definitely like, oh man, Team Liquid, if they just play this well, they should have it. But I think definitely a part of that as well is also taking into account like draft is much easier for a team that has giant champ pools and vice versa. It's one of those things where it's like some teams are very hard to draft against, and I think that Team Liquid is one of those teams because it's like, who do we take away? Which is, it's just so funny because you think back to the days when we only had 3 bans, where now we have 5 bans aside, and I'm still like, there's not enough bans. We can't take away everything. So it's like,
you can maybe focus one person.
Yeah, and then you're gonna give Pobelter a Zir or something like that, and then Impact will pocket pick Singed, and you're like, I haven't played against this Singed in like 6 months. Like what?
Yeah. What are his abilities again? Look it up.
Yeah. So I think they did a really good job of shutting down Cody Sun as well, because I really feel like he's like the mini Reckless of 100 Thieves. Where it's like, okay, no matter what happens, we'll always have that late game insurance. We'll always have somebody that we know is going to carry us in team fights. It should be okay, even if things go wrong. But they did a great job of making sure that like Cody never got a chance to do that, and especially like putting him on Ezreal game 2 and stuff like that. So I just think they did a fantastic job. But I think part of that was a giant part of it was Xmithie and Pobelter. Pobelter crushed mid lane. Xmithie was all over the map. They 4-manned bot lane countless times. So like you can't even put it on Afro and Cody saying like, oh yeah, you got 4 people diving your turret. Like, and then the insane Azir ult by him, not only in the Baron pit in game 2, but I think game 3 as well in bot lane. Like a Pobelter was a madman. And we don't have the bans to take Azir away from him. So. What do you do? And I think that's kind of the situation 100 Thieves was stuck in, and you kind of felt like as the games went on, they kind of got more and more defeated and more kind of the point where it was like, we'll try, but I don't know if it's going to work. Like, they did a good job in game 3, like trying to play around Someday. They were like, well, bot lane's getting crushed, so let's just like leave bot lane and hopefully get Someday going. But
they talked about it too a little bit. Like it did feel like a bit of a mistake. Like once you've got him ahead, you don't keep returning to that lane. You need to apply that pressure elsewhere.
I feel like they were like, if we go bot, we're just gonna die.
Maybe.
Like I don't, and that's why I feel like 100 Thieves almost got into that like sort of like abused mindset of like, oh well, if I put my hand in the cookie jar, I'm gonna get slapped, and like the parent's not even around. Like you can grab as many cookies as you want, but you have that mentality of like, I'm gonna get slapped. They're gonna come out and slap my hand. Like, and I think that's what happens over the course of a series is you start to realize like, well, the last time I tried that, I got punished super hard and we lost the game. I don't want to lose this. This is the last game we have.
Yeah, I mean, and also too, the annoying thing was, and like I was thinking this as I didn't quite like visualize that they really should have shifted the pressure after they got top lane ahead. But like I was looking at it as like, I mean, this is impact on a tank. All he has to do is be in the right position and trigger his ult and maybe root somebody. It's impact. He's going to do that. He did that.
Yep.
I mean, so like,
stick him on a Maokai.
There's no point, especially on that game. There was no point to keep applying all that pressure up there and just keep like farming kills because one, I mean, the gold is going to just drop so much more, and then you're not applying pressure elsewhere. Like you're already ahead. Like just let them split push and ignore them.
I really feel like it was the equivalent of like TL's getting Baron, and they're like, if we attempt to contest this Baron, we're just gonna die. Let's just try and get bot lane and Hib. I don't know if it's gonna work. I don't know, but let's just try and do that instead. That's my assumption because I agree with you entirely, but I also feel like they tried to do that in the previous game and it did not go well. And it kind of happened a bit early in that game too. And they're like, this is our last game. Like we can't take any chances. Like somebody's doing well on Gnar. Like let's just get him going. Like Cody will hopefully scale. Like because that's the thing too. They were like, okay, we got Caitlyn for Cody. Like he'll scale up. Like we'll land some late game hook. We'll do some like fancy like Rise ultimate engage or something like that. Like we'll figure it out. We'll get it done, guys. But yeah, no, like if you look at Team Liquid's comp, we were talking before about like easy to execute comps and stuff. Like in Game 3, they have Maokai, Skarner, Azir, Jhin, Braum. Like find somebody, click them, everybody all click them at the same time, and we're good to go. And you don't even have to be close to them. So it's one of those things where even though you got yourself a Fed Gnar, it's going to be really difficult to actually have that impact the entire game. And I feel like there was like 100 Thieves kind of like last hope. They're like, well, hopefully this works, but I don't have a better strategy.
Yeah,
I don't want to go bot lane.
And I mean, yeah, but so. And actually, talking about bot lane, comment here in chat, and this will be perfect for us to start shifting into MSI talk a bit. Has this past weekend changed your expectation of how EU and NA are going to perform?
Yeah, I think that Team Liquid has continued to impress me, and that's kind of what I was looking for. I was like, you guys have done really well so far, just keep it up, and then I'll be like, okay, we're good. So now I'm super excited to see Team Liquid and Fnatic play, because I was really, like I said before, Fnatic was on my the star check plus list sort of thing, where I'm like, this is a team where even if they fall behind, I have faith, and I don't have that with a lot of teams. And Team Liquid just crossed the bar, and now they're in that same category with me, where like I have faith. Like I think they're a really good team, which I don't say that often. I usually say like, yeah, they're not bad, they're pretty good, but like from what we've seen recently, they're a very good team. We'll see against higher quality competition, but so far, hey, you've done everything you need to impress me. That was great, fantastic play. And like I said, I've already sung Fnatic's praises over and over again, so I don't have to go back to that well.
And I mean, so let's see. So Sholay's saying that's the meta. Best bot lanes win at the moment. I mean, I feel like it's
It's half true. It's definitely not untrue. I definitely think that Doublelift and Olay were the better bot lane that series. And I think that Cody and Afro lane was never their strong suit. Not to say that they're bad in lane by any means, but that was never like where they would take over bot lane through ganks from Meteos.
Yeah.
And we didn't really get that series because Doublelift and Olay are
some roaming play.
I was going to say exactly, yeah. It's usually off of the back of Meteos Afro doing some tag team sort of thing. Yeah. But yeah, exactly like you're saying, or whoever in chat was saying that, the pressure in bot lane is a big chunk of why they weren't allowed to do that. Because you've got the pressure in mid. Again, I think Pobelter is a big part of it. Pobelter and Xmithie, I think, are a big part of this as well. Is Pobelter had a lot of pressure in mid, and him and Xmithie were constantly roaming down there to kind of help stack on top of the pressure that Doublelift and Olay were already providing. Mm-hmm. So I think it's one of those big team effort things, and it kind of manifests in looking like, whoa, bot lane's crushing it. And I think they were. I think they were playing fantastic. But I don't think that it was. I feel like if they had swapped and you give 100 Thieves Xmithie and Pobelter, I feel like Cody and Afro would take over. I feel like just because Doublelift and Olay were winning the 2v2s doesn't mean that would end up being that they're going to win the game and carry the game based off of that. I think with the extra little nudge from Pobelt or Nick Smithy, I think that's when it starts to all kind of click together and be like, okay, now we got a bot lane that can carry this. We can just take the turret, take these other turrets, snowball the game, start these pick team fights, which is a lot what Team Liquid's like to do, is kind of like get things together where we can make team-oriented picks and play around vision and create some pressure with team play. Because really, that's where Team Liquid shines, is in mid and late game, once they actually get the team together and can make team macro plays. Not to say that the early game's bad by any means, but I think that they understand that early game is to get the ball rolling, as opposed to like, you don't need to go crazy. We don't need to just build this giant snowball right now. Let's just slowly get this thing going, and by the time mid and late come in, we'll kick it into high gear, and we'll use those small advantages we gained early and just take over the game from there.
Yeah. So, do you still think Fnatic will do better than Liquid?
Ooh, now I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of scared, especially since the whole Bwipo Soaz situation. Not to say Bwipo played very well, but I definitely think that it's one of those things where there's still a little bit. I would much more trust Soaz on an international stage. Yeah. For at the very least, just literally him being able to like say something when it's like 40 minutes in the game and it's crazy. He'll be like, "All right, guys, we're gonna do this," as opposed to somebody else who would be like, "What do we do, guys? You tell me." And that's really nice to have somebody who will take charge later because they've been there before. So that kind of makes me a tiny bit worried about Fnatic, but they've played so well. I really honestly have no idea. I think that it's really going to be a matter of kind of who shows up, like who plays better on that actual day. Because I think both teams are great right now, and both teams could beat the other. It really depends on who plays better. Because it's one of those things where it's like most teams against Fnatic, they're like, well, let's just take over top lane because top lane is their weak spot. But I feel like Impact's not exactly the guy to do that. Not that he can't do that, but I feel like Team Liquid is going to be guys where they're like, well, we don't want to have to dump everything into Impact and top lane. We want to play around bot lane a bit, we want to play mid lane a bit, and top lane a bit as well, but we don't want to like throw all our eggs in that one basket. So it'll be interesting to see if they do go with that strategy, which most teams are kind of saying is like that's the way to beat Fnatic. I feel like Team Liquid is going to come at it smarter. I feel like their coaching staff is really, really smart, and I feel like they'll have good drafts, they'll have good kind of early team play, like early jungle play, and I think that in team and late game it'll be really interesting because Rekkles is a god past 30 minutes and Team Liquid's macro is really good. But the last game of the Fnatic G2 series, that little Baron dance from Fnatic back and forth where like Rise is just taking free stuff bot lane and Fnatic just has balls of steel just sitting there like, we're going to take Baron, you better come stop us. Oh, never mind, we're going to run away. Like, oh, you're going to take Baron, we'll stop you. Never mind, we're going to run away. And the entire time Caps is just taking free stuff and it's like, that's a good team. That is a team that is not afraid. That's a team that is making calls that are like, yeah, we know we're going to play that, we're going to execute this plan properly. So let's do this really risky plan. And if you can actually execute those properly, it's insanely beneficial. Me personally, I'm always so worried of botching the execution that very rarely will we get in those nice situations like that. But Fnatic's doing it, and that impresses me immensely. So I really honestly have no idea. Team Liquid and Fnatic have both impressed me with individual play and team play. I can't wait to see them face each other because I have no idea. I really feel like it's legit a coin flip. It's legitimately just like one day TL will win, one day Fnatic will win. It's just whoever shows up on that day.
So if you had to pick right now.
Oh, geez.
Ready, set, go, say.
Fnatic.
Okay.
Again, I'm not good at betting because I always go, well, I want Team Liquid to win, so I'm going to bet on Fnatic. So when Fnatic wins, I see, I told you. And when Team Liquid wins, I go, screw Fnatic, yay, Team Liquid. So,
yep.
Fnatic.
After I've seen watching this past weekend, I think Fnatic might still be a little bit better, but I would actually go for Liquid. I feel the plot armor. I think they're going to do really well, and maybe beat a Korean team. Yeah, let's go with that. Ooh. You know, is the plot armor thick enough? We'll see.
I don't know about MSI. Again, I haven't been watching LCK, but at least from the kind of whispers I've been hearing, most likely it's going to be Kingzone going to MSI, and I've heard they're pretty good, even for a Korean team, which is very worrisome. Again, I haven't watched their play, so this is entirely based off of what I've heard from other people. But yeah, like, oh wow, you've really impressed me in NA. You've really impressed me in EU. It's like, okay, well, you've really impressed me in Korea. Oh, Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's you're going to MSI, you're going to Worlds. I might put some money on that team right there.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. You
We will
never know.
see.
They could play horribly, but yeah, Koreans are pretty good at this game.
Are they? Are they?
Yeah,
I don't
just a bit. Yeah, they're pretty good
So-
at this whole computer games.
On that note, we're not going to have a show for the next couple of weeks. We'll probably try and get something before MSI potentially here. You guys will see. I'll put a little notification up in the stream on the day-to-day stream. Something I am working on. It's not quite ready, but it should be done in time. Is we'll have a MSI pick'em up on the website. So even if Riot doesn't do one, we'll have a pick'em for MSI, so you can go through there and make your full-on predictions. I'll have it with increasing points as the tournament goes on, and so we'll be able to crown a winner, and might even throw some prizes out there. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So, but yeah, let's see if there's any questions from chat, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up. It's been I have to say, like, we talked about it a little bit last week too, but like just trying doing this show, I mean, it's definitely been for fun, but like I've been noticing, like, yeah, I try to approach things so much more analytically than just kind of like a passive observer.
Yeah, it's totally different watching the game, and it's entirely different. I've had to watch games with a different mindset so much because I used to be a caster as well. So like watching as a caster versus watching as a coach versus watching as a spectator versus watching as, like, I guess coach and analyst are kind of similar in this, but it's one of those things where it's entirely different on how you view the game and how you kind of treat plays. Whether you're like, oh wow, that was really cool, or like, oh, well, that only happened because this guy made this mistake over here. And it's like, oh, it's like it's so different than it's fun to do both. But yeah, I've definitely been kind of taking notes and pausing games. Okay, well, this guy's doing this. Okay, all right, let's unpause. All right, let's see. Whereas a fan, I'll just kind of be like, oh,
yeah.
So yeah, it's totally different. But it's really cool getting to analyze these teams a bit more and kind of see how our analysis kind of stacks up to what happens in reality, because sometimes it's like, oh yeah, right on, and sometimes it's like, whoa, we were not expecting that.
Not even close. Yep.
Yeah.
And
like,
honestly, that is, like, for me, that's absolutely the biggest draw, is like being able to, put down, in writing, that this is what I'm saying, and then to see how close you are. Okay, we got a question. Completely unrelated to anything we've been doing, essentially. Any opinion on the Origin roster?
yeah. Let me
I
just
think
double
it's
check that.
Froggen, Forgiven.
Yeah, Froggen, Forgiven, Jez's, Insec. And is it Expect in the top lane? Yeah, Insec is in jungle, which is like, what? Ooh, wait, what?
So remind me, though, this is just Origin trying to posture for franchising, right?
I
Like,
believe
they're not
so.
Actually,
I have no idea what they're actually competing
I haven't
in.
missed
And
something, right?
Jez's is on loan from Fnatic. I don't even know what that. I don't know what that means. But I am a huge Forgiven fan, so I'm hype as hell for this roster. Any team Forgiven is on, I'm hyped for. I'm hyped for, like, the crappy Greek teams he's on, like when he's taking time off. I'm like, oh, look at that team, they're gonna make LCS.
So
I love Forgiven so much. So,
yes, you're the big fan of the outsized personalities that seem to go hand in hand with the ADCs.
Yep.
Didn't he, like, stop playing League for a little bit?
Yeah, but he also stopped playing League for like 4 or 5 months, and then carried H2K at, like, what was it, Worlds or something like that. They carried him, like, in the playoffs or something. It was something where literally, like, Freeze broke his hand, and they called up Forgiven, and he's like, I haven't been playing this game, and they're like, I don't care, get on our team, and he's like, okay, and he just carried everyone. It's just like, this guy's insane. When he stopped playing League for a bit, he played CS:GO. He hit the highest level. He hit the highest level at Overwatch. Like, this guy's just good at video games. He is very good at clicking a mouse.
Wow. Especially to be able to transition between a MOBA and a first-person shooter like that. Yeah, he just must have.
He's just
a
good.
Strategic sense.
I was gonna say, yeah, he's very, and that's why I love him so much, is because he's got skill, he's got determination, and he's just got that mindset of like, I'm gonna beat you. Like, I'm going to work harder than you. I have more talent than you. I'm going to beat you. Like, there's no like, well, let's have a good game, and I hope I do well. And it's like, I'm gonna win. Like, what? Why did you even show up? I'm gonna beat you. And I love that mentality of just like it's gonna happen. I'm going to accomplish this goal. And I feel like Forgiven has that mindset. And I feel like part of why there's kind of sometimes people think he's like toxic and stuff like that, which he is a little bit toxic for sure. But I think a giant portion of why he is like that is because he wants to win so badly. And when other people don't want to win as badly as he does, he's not willing to accept that. He's like, if you're on my team, you need to want to win as badly as I do, and you need to be able to fix mistakes like I do. And I feel like some people kind of can't hang with that. They're like, I want to be told that I'm good and I did okay. And he's like, no, you were shit. Like he's the type of guy that probably doesn't tell you when you do something right. He only says something when you do something wrong. And
because he expects you to
be perfect at all times, because he's perfect at all
Yeah.
times. And a lot of the people that play with him, a lot of his supports, they all say like he is the best player I've ever played with. And like I just want to live up to his expectations. Like I just want to play as well as he wants me to play, and that's why. So this was the question was about Origin, and I kind of just made it about Forgiving because I love him so much. But so I'll talk more about the rest of the roster. Froggen, very interesting because I think that Forgiven and Froggen are kind of similar players in that they're like, give me all the farm and I'll carry the game, and it's like, ooh, that might be kind of awkward having two of those carries, but they're great players. They're both phenomenal players, so I think they'll figure it out hopefully. And then Insec is all sorts of question marks. Is that like a PR move? I don't know what that. His Insec played. I don't even remember the last game he's played in.
Retired. But then maybe still kept playing.
He was on Royal Club in 2017. Was DS Gaming a thing? Chinese team? Were they a real thing?
And also like
6th in the LPL. So he's been playing. He just hasn't been doing super well. Okay, so he's still serviceable. I guess maybe I don't know. It's probably just a PR stunt.
It's like it doesn't look like Origin's playing in the EU Masters tournament, right? So
I don't even know what they're. I honestly don't even know if they're playing. Are they literally just form this roster to be like, hey, if we'll have something close to this if you put us in LCS, it'll be cool. I have no idea what they're doing with this, but the roster is very intriguing. I don't know if it'll work or have any like long-term benefit or whatever, but hey, I'll watch their games. I'm interested. So I guess it's done its job in that aspect. If they have games, I don't know. I was gonna say if they have games, they'll just start scrimming. Right?
They have like a I don't know if I'd even put them necessarily mid-tier LCS, but like they have a decent roster.
They'd be able to survive in LCS, I would imagine, because Expect was on G2 before, so like he should be pretty decent with Western teams. And Jess has shown that he's a good support, and he used to coach and stuff too, so he's got some really good knowledge. Froggen is just always good. And my real question would be Insec. But maybe someone who's been watching him is like, no, he's fine. I just haven't seen him in years, so I have no idea whether he's like washed up or whether he's still just chugging along. But yeah, interesting roster. Like I said, I'll watch any team Forgiven's on. I'm happy to watch. But yeah, I have no idea what they're doing. Yeah, just put him on Lee. Yeah, it's Sholay. It's in chat. Just put him on Lee only. I think that's exactly what we'll do. Just have him pull out his standard Insec. Yeah, they'll get some Steve money for them. But yeah, I have no idea what they're actually planning on doing with this roster. Whether they have games to play or they're like, is this like for when there is franchising? They're kind of
like I'm looking through the original article at theshotcaller.net and it seems purely that it looks like they got an investment from a big soccer/football player, and that they are going to try and make a push to get franchised.
Do you know when the franchising decisions are going to happen? Is it the
I
end
assume it's going to be very similar to the timeline of North America, so they'll probably announce right before the November.
Yeah. End of the actual season. right? Like the actual, not the split, the actual season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They're probably starting the process. I don't know if it's closed yet or not. But yeah, no, it's.
But then why so early, and why is Jess on loan from Fnatic? Like
I mean,
what?
it's got to be.
It's so weird.
I mean, so let's see. I don't remember hearing anything in NA about team that had formerly been in NALCS and then trying to get back in. There were teams that were in the LCS and got kicked out, and there were a ton of new organizations that were not in LCS trying to get in. But I never really heard of any group trying to bring themselves back in.
Well, EU's doing.
So EU might be. So all right. So the reason Origin might be going about this is because they're in kind of this unique position, and so probably are going uphill, and so are trying to do this as just early, like I said, early PR, and trying to prove that we are really committed to this. We've already signed players. We already have everything in place.
Yeah. That would make sense, I think, because if I'm not mistaken, I believe EU is doing like a kind of more like place-based teams. Like there'll be a team from Spain, there'll be a team from France. Sort of. I think they are at least trying to do it kind of roughly like that.
I remember they had like this really convoluted plan, and they were gonna do
some
like
weird like 4 Spain teams in their own. Yeah. That was weird. That they threw out the window when everybody raged and said no, don't do that. But I still feel like if I'm not mistaken, I still feel like they're doing a like. They're going to try and have like one more kind of like how Overwatch League does it, where they're like it's the Los Angeles whatevers.
Yeah. Europe is the place to do it because you have the fragmented markets already, which is what teams over there have always complained about.
Yeah.
And then they have the. It's also a lot smaller. I mean, you want to fly from East Coast of the U.S. to the West Coast. Versus Europe, where you can basically reach everything in an hour or less.
Yeah, you can take a train and it's all good.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. I wonder, though, now that I think about it, I wonder if that's going to put pressure on other organizations that aren't in EU LCS right now, but are going to try and do that, to go ahead and try and create a roster right now rather than say, we're going to get in and then build a roster.
And that's what I imagine is what they're doing right now, is they're, right, would be like, okay, cool, you want to join our league, you don't even have a team. And they're like, where's our team? We got a team, look at this, there you go, look at all these players, you know all their names, like you've seen these guys before, what a great team we got. But yeah, because I think and if I'm not, I might just be making this up right now. But like I said, I feel like they are doing the like one from France, one from England, or whatever, that type of thing. And I believe Giants is the other Spanish team that's in EU LCS right now. And if I had to put money on who's making it in, Giants or Origin, I'm going with Origin. Like, who's a Giants fan? Like, no offense to them, but Giants has been in the LCS like every split almost. And then when they haven't, they get right back in, and it's just like they're always bottom tier, and just at least I don't really know how much their fan base and stuff like in the ULCS, but like they seem like a team that's just never really kind of has that pop. Like I don't know if I've ever seen a person in a Giants jersey in the crowd. You know what I mean? Like that type of stuff. It's just like I've seen Origin jerseys, and you know what I mean? Like when you have the organization that's kind of like the figurehead is a beloved ex-pro player, like chances are it's probably gonna go well for you. Like chances are they're probably gonna have built-in fan base, and Riot would be like, that's something we want. Yeah, but yeah, who knows?
All right, let's run through a couple more questions. Man, chat, you guys actually have questions today. No. All right, we'll knock out a couple of these real quick. What do you think about LCK final on Saturday? I mean, Kingzone's probably won the stomp.
Yeah, I haven't watched LCK this season, unfortunately, but from what I've heard, Kingzone is on another level right now. Yeah. And I think I saw a Reddit thread the other day saying every single team in LCK was predicting.
So I mean, if that's what they're predicting, that's good enough for me.
We'll go with the people who play against them.
If it jacks the odds of Africa freaking us up to 100 to 1, I'd put a little money on them to win for the upset.
Yeah.
What do we think about wild cards? Do you expect any surprises from them? So MSI, I mean, every year we've been seeing the wild card regions develop and just get better and better and better. So I expect to see some fantastic showings, honestly, in MSI. My expectations are pretty high. Especially Vietnam, I think, right? They became their own region. They got shifted out. So you're probably not going to see quite amazing results necessarily, other than because they've always had what is it? I think the reason they got moved out is because they always had two teams in there that were always dominating Southeast Asia, was it? Whichever grouping they were in, they were always sending a bunch of teams there, and so now Riot was like, okay, you're good enough, you need to have your own region. So they're going to start off weak as they develop that, but I mean, it raises the ceiling of potential that they could have. So I mean, they're still going to be sending their number one. So I mean, that's the interesting thing, right? Is like you're sending all these just number ones, that's it, and throwing them all in. Yeah, high expectations.
Yeah. It should be interesting. The thing that I am a little bit worried about is this is MSI and not Worlds, so it's not like you get to face like teams 3 through 1. It's like this is a number one. This is the best. It's not just like the best from the wild card facing off of like the top-ish teams. It's so I do expect the wild cards to not perform poorly or anything like that. I think they're going to show that they're like decent players and decent teams and stuff like that. But I feel like because it's usually like NA and EU. Yeah, I was gonna say, it's usually going to be NA and EU that are like, oh well, maybe the wildcard teams will beat them. But after seeing what Team Liquid and Fnatic can do, I'm actually like, oh, they're playing closer to Koreans than they are to wildcard teams right now. So we'll see. But I think it's going to be like you said, they're not going to win, but they'll have a good showing. Which is, I mean, hey, that's all you can really ask for when you're playing like the top team, the single top team from each region. That's pretty tough kind of competition.
So let's see. Group stage 3, group stage, 6 teams. 4 of them are preset: LCK, LPL, NA, EU, and then 2 winners from the whole play-in rounds.
Actually, because
I would say,
because aren't teams like Flash Wolves and stuff in like wild cards? I don't even know if Flash Wolves are good right now, but like stuff like that, like they're always good on international stage.
So there's 2 groups of play-ins of 4 each. From more of the wild card regions, and then the winner of each of those groups is going to get randomly seeded against so Taiwan, I think, and then what's the other region? I've been looking at this the past few days as I'm setting up pick'ems, and now I'm blanking on who the other team is. But yeah, so it's one of those other teams, and so
it's always like Turkey or something too.
Maybe it's Turkey.
I always remember like Flash Wolves and like Supermassive and like teams like that. I always remember, and like there's always like a Detonation Focus Me or something from Japan, or like Rascal Jesters or whatever. I love the Japanese league. I never watch it, but I love the teams and their team pictures and stuff. Oh, it's great. Mm-hmm. I love it. They got a good league over there.
Yeah. So let's see, playing groups. EVOS Esports. Who is EVOS?
That's the thing. Is I have no idea. So
it's LMS and Vietnam. Okay, well then. So Vietnam's getting the other. They get to skip the group play, and so that does mean Turkey's going to have to go through the group. But Vietnam. And chat just mentioned that. Yeah, I expect to see Vietnam in group stage in the 6 teams.
They don't have Levi anymore. So I don't know. I've been watching Vietnam, of course, but yeah, I feel like Levi was a giant portion of why they did so well over there. But maybe it's not even, you know what I mean? Maybe it's not even going to be Levi's old team that's doing well. I have no idea. Whatever. but yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
It will be.
But I think it's such stiff competition at MSI. It's going to be really hard for a wildcard team to pick up a win.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we'll call it a night after that. So thank you, chat, for all of the extra questions, and we will see you guys before MSI. Have a good one.